Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Just wanted to do a sense check in terms of are you able to hear me rightly or not. Can you guys just confirm me or comment me in a live chat that are you able to hear me out properly and of course see me properly. Hi Mark. Can you confirm, Mark? Can you guys hear me rightly? Hello Kashmir. Just wanted to do a check before I really proceed on. Am I loud and clear and of course visible to you guys? Hello Rohan. All right, Kashmir says yes. Good Kashmir, thank you very much. Thanks Mark for that. Really appreciate that. All right guys, thank you very much for really joining in and of course be there with me for your upcoming Diploma in IFRS exam that is just coming your way. Now what do we have in store today? What do we really want to be covering today? I do have a very short agenda today because this is something I really wanted to have more for our discussion in terms of discussing with you as to where you need my help right now at this point in time, because in couple of days when you would hit your exam you should be best prepared for it. So what I have in store today is of course the content of the masterclass would be to give you an insight as to what issues examiner has been observing, and if that is the case, how can you not repeat the same mistake or do the same error. And that is the intent, that is the overall I would say takeaway that I want you to have from this session. I really want you to know what examiner has been saying, because this is, I would say, these are like last few hours. You should understand that examiner doesn't want you to do that, so that you're really prepared and not repeating the same mistake over there. I have collated over here the consolidated feedback of various examiner reports that have come up from the Dip IFR exam, and I really want to showcase you over here, and of course we'll discuss on various issues that are being observed in the exam, and of course I do want to give you some recommendation based on what I've seen in the examiner report and of course what I see, and that is something that you should be following on. And of course before you sit for an exam you should always have that at the back of your mind. Of course towards the end we'll have some time for the Q&A. We'll discuss on the questions that you may have and of course help that you may need from my side in terms of telling you and of course helping you as to what can you do different. Sounds like a plan? Yes sir. Alrighty. Moving on my friend, first thing first, of course, for the folks who are seeing me for the first time, I just wanted to introduce myself because that should be the right, and I would say the right starting point. My name is Pankaj Dhingra and I'm a qualified chartered accountant and a CPA from US. I have more than 20 years of experience working in various corporates at the finance leadership roles. I have worked with the corporates like Wipro, BlackRock, BCG and so on and so forth, and of course headed their finance per se in terms of being at the strategic position and of course handling their whole I would say financial set of affairs. Now while I've been doing that, I have always been very close to the student fraternity. I have been the global faculty for CA, CPA, ACCA and Dip IFR all across the globe in terms of having students know as to what they should be doing in order to be best prepared for that exam. I've also given my WhatsApp number over here and of course my email ID over here. So if there is any question that may come up your way, you can of course bounce it off to me, send it to me and we'll be happy to pick it up, happy to answer there and then. Is that clear? Yes sir. Alright, moving on my friend, one thing that I really want you to now do not forget, when you're sitting for an exam in a couple of days, you should know what is the objective that examiner may have in his mind from the standpoint of testing you on the exam day. there is an objective that is being clearly cited out in various examiner reports that says that this is the objective of the DIP IFRS exam, and you have to have that at the back of your mind and not forgetting that for sure. The first objective is that examiner wants you to understand the conceptual framework of the financial reporting, the foundation of the financial reporting. He really wants you to understand that. We have covered the conceptual framework at length in our sessions, wherein we have got into the details as to how the conceptual framework is being done, what you should be knowing, how you should be following, what you should be implementing, how you should be moving on from the conceptual framework to the IFRSs and then to the implementation of the IFRSs. We've covered that at length. You really have to know that, my friend, because examiner would surely expect you to answer at least one question on the overall conceptual framework that you may get to see in the exam. Very important for you to really know that examiner expects that. Second thing is to apply the relevant international financial reporting standards to the key element of the financial statements. I think this goes without saying. He really wants us to be, I would say, upfront and prepared with the international financial reporting standards, and we have covered at length all of them in our sessions. You just have to understand and ensure that you're not missing on the basic understanding of these IFRSs, and of course how these IFRSs impact the financial statement at large from the overall impact standpoint, computation standpoint, and the disclosure standpoint. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Then to prepare the consolidated financial statement, you always have one question in the exam that deals with the consolidated financial statements. Somewhat you really have to give your observation on that particular question, of course, in addition to the computation that you may have to do over there. But one consolidated financial statement question is always there in the exam. You have to ensure, my friend, that you understand the overall consolidated financial statement principles and you have been able to apply that at length. We have spoken on that at length in detail in our sessions. Please do not forget that. And last but not the least is to comply with the presentation requirement of various IFRSs we have done. We have talked about in terms of how those IFRSs will get presented onto the overall financial statements, and that's what examiner really tests you on. If you have these objectives at the back of your mind, then it becomes a hell lot easier for you to give back the examiner exactly what he needs. You have to know that examiner would somewhere test you on the conceptual framework, so you should really be looking forward answering that in the exam. You're prepared, my friend. You're completely prepared with that. This is just a recap for you to tell you that this is something you should not be missing on. This is something you should not be forgetting on in the exam, and this is something you should always ensure when you write in the exam. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Moving on, all about the ACCA DIP IFRS exam. All right, it's a 3-hour 15-minute exam. We all know that, sir. That's done and dusted, sir. Understand that, sir. There are 4 questions in this exam. I am just repeating, just giving you a recap, my friend. Just wanted you to really know that this may come your way, and if this comes your way, how one should be really tackling that in the best way possible. You have 4 questions in the exam. In the DIP IFRS exam, we get 4 questions, 25 marks each. All right. First question relates to the consolidation issue. We know that, sir, that relates to the consolidation issue, wherein we may have to compute something, and then we have to discuss, suggest, recommend, conclude, and so on and so forth, depending upon what examiner really wants us to do. You are bang on, my friend. That's what examiner really needs, and you should not be missing on that. The consolidation question that you may get to see in the exam would have the computational aspect in terms of thinking through and of course doing the adjustment and preparing the consolidated statement of financial position or P&L or statement of changes in equity, whatsoever the case may be. But in addition to that, you may have to comment, you may have to recommend, and so on and so forth. Do not forget on that. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Then question 2. Question 2 relates to the scenario to answer questions regarding the appropriate accounting treatment. You must have done something wrong from the accounting standpoint. Question number 2 wants you to understand what's wrong there, understand what's not going your way, and then recommending the right course of action based on what we have learned in various IFRSs. And that's what you really need to know. You have to understand the mistake, the error, the issue that may be happening in that particular question, and then basis the knowledge of IFRS that you have in your head right now at this point in time, you should be able to recommend the rightful answer to it, the rightful recommendation to it. Important is that we are having that at the back of our mind, that we have to find the error, we have to find the error with an intent of giving the resolution, and that's going to be completing the answer. You should not be missing on that. Question number 1, as in, one question relates to consolidation. Question number 2, as in the second question, again, the chronologically it can be different, but first the one question would certainly be on consolidation. The other question would certainly be on the error that has happened. You have to recommend the rightful treatment of it. Alrighty, sir. Then the third question you may get to see in this exam would be in relation to the one IFRS. This is very, very classic. He'll give you one IFRS in the whole question, and of course can ask you like 1 or 2, I would say, questions onto it, wherein you have to really explain your detailed understanding of IFRS. You may have to explain few things, you may have to compute few things, and so on and so forth, but that would really test you a detailed understanding of one IFRS. Now that can be any, but he would certainly test you one IFRS in one question. Alright, and last but not the least, you may get to see this question from anywhere. This is generally a theoretical question wherein you may have to comment, recommend, discuss, and so on and so forth on various issues or various problems in relation to IFRS that organization is really facing on. But this is always mix of various IFRSs that you may get to see in this exam. In the nutshell, he would certainly test you on various IFRSs in the exam in terms of he understanding from you that do you really know the IFRSs in terms of the content, and do you know in terms of how would you implement them, how do you really suggest an organization basis the understanding that you have as to what would work in that particular situation, that particular industry, and so on and so forth. And that's what the need of the hour is. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Important, my friend. We have 3 hours 15 minutes to answer 4 questions of 25 marks each. You should do justice to each and every question and should not leave any question untouched in the exam. There is no negative marking over here. Give your best, and that is gonna be it. Is that clear? Yes, sir. All right. Moving on, my friend, we have overall feedback that we have from the examiner. I just collated that and I wanted to discuss this with you so that you should not be repeating this mistake when you are sitting for your exam. Examiner feels that historically there is too much of reliance that is placed on performing well in question 1. You spend good amount of time on question number 1, and question number 2, 3, 4 then takes the back seat. They do not get the rightful time that they need in terms of solving it, and then you're not able to solve the entire 2, 3 and 4th question. Big problem. You should do justice to each and every question. Each question is 25 marks each. You should be spending time basis the same. 1.8 minutes per mark is something that we recommend, and that is something you should be spending on each and every question that you may get to see in the exam, not going beyond that. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Second one is apparent failure to read and understand the question. Now this at times happens when you miss on few specific things in the exam. When you have misread the dates in terms of when the financials are being given, when the acquisition happened, when the adjustments has to happen in the books of accounts, when the disposal has happened, when the acquisition has happened, and so on and so forth. If you are missing on dates, your calculation would be wrong. If your calculations are wrong, your recommendation is wrong. If your recommendation is wrong, you would not get any marks. You have to see the question properly, read the question carefully. Denomination is again an example. Whether some of the figures in the questions are in millions, some of the figures are in billions, some of the figures are in thousands, some of the figures are in hundreds. You should know that denominations are different over here. We are to deal with these denomination in terms of really resolving that to the best extent possible. We are not going to be missing that, because considering denomination differences are there, we should be including the right denomination in our answers and of course in our computations. And if we really miss on, our answer would be wrong, and so on and so forth. Very important that denomination, very important that dates, and very important that the exact requirement of the question in terms of what he's really asking you to do is something that you're really giving him back. And if you're not really understanding the exact requirement, he would certainly kill you for it. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Alrighty, just give me a sec, then we'll kickstart again. The next mistake that happens over here is that student at times they do not answer all the requirements of the question. Many of the times the question has 2 or at times 3 requirements to be answered. Just because you have not read them rightly, just because you have not gone into the right level of details, or just because you are short of time because you have spent good amount of time in one or the 2 questions, another 2 are left with the less amount of time, and now you're not able to handle that in the rightful manner. You're not able to answer all of the questions that are there in that particular requirement. Killing for you, my friend. If you're doing that, that would be a suicidal for you. Always ensure that you're understanding all the requirements of the question and you're not missing on that. And then the examiner says that at times fundamentals are missing. This is something I do not see happening to any examiner, because we have really prepared you well from the fundamental standpoint. You should not be missing on anything in the exam as far as the fundamentals are concerned. You have really spent good amount of time and practiced a lot of questions in the class, after the class, in the revision boot camp, wherein we have practiced all of the types of questions that you may have, including the concept, comprehensive and the past examination questions, just to give you an insight as to how one should be handling that in the exam scenario. And that is what is needed. Please do not forget that. Practice them as much as possible and ensure that your fundamentals are strong. Examiner should not get an opportunity saying that you are missing on the basics. Is that clear? Yes, sir. And last but not the least is the lack of practice is something that examiner really says, and I'm sure you very well understand that this is not a theoretical exam, and this really needs you to practice a lot of questions, and that's what we do in our revision boot camp. That's what we really want you to practice as much as possible on the various issues that you may see in the question, and the more you will do that, the best prepared are you from the standpoint of handling that in the exam. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Alrighty. Moving on, my friend. Now, these 2 slides, I have one slide that talks on the areas which examiner says that students have been handling very rightly, or generally that are these areas are correct. And then there is a slide that talks on the areas wherein examiner feel that student is struggling. We have covered all of these areas in our sessions, but I just wanted to highlight so that if there is anything that you may also feel that way in any area which examiner feel that students are really not doing well, revise that once more, and I'm sure you'll be able to capture and of course cover up the gap as much as possible. Now, the areas that are really well in the exam, or students are really doing well in the exam, are the consolidation on the overall basis, the principles that are being used, the computational aspect of the questions are generally good compared to the narrative explanations. People are very good in computation, but they're not good in terms of writing the reason, writing the interpretation of it. We have practiced a lot, my friend. You really have to work on this because the examiner specifically says that. Alright, intra-group trading, people are really good on that. Fair value adjustment is generally good, no problem. Calculation of cost of investment in a subsidiary is also good. Again, the consolidation piece, impairment of goodwill and consolidation is again good, no issue as such. PPE, construction cost, convertible loans, operating lease, and of course short-term low value asset. Generally these questions that when they really comes in the exam, examiner feel that students are really doing good on it, there is no issue as such. Again, whatsoever is being displayed over here is from the ACCA website. We have collated various components from there in terms of what is being published from the examiner comment standpoint. We have come, we have brought it over here just to give you an insight as to what may come your way and of course how you should be prepared for it. All right, now these are the areas, my friend, wherein examiner feels that students are missing something. Knowledge of control according to IFRS 10, at times students miss on that in terms of when the company has got a control over the other and so on and so forth. Calculation of non-controlling interest per se, preparation of consolidated statement of changes in equity. P&L is good, balance sheet is good, but changes in equity at times is a problem. Ensure that content of segment report according to IFRS 8, that is operating segment, at times becomes an issue. All right, dealing with the actuarial differences. Now there is a recent change that has come up in the actuarial differences, which is that we have covered in our sessions, and I'm sure you are aware of changes that are coming from the standpoint of all of the changes. Because that is specifically being covered in the sessions. The important piece is that you're not missing on revising the same. So all of the new things that have come up, please revise that. Important is because these things, since they are new, examiner at time test you on it. All right, then hedge accounting is something examiner feel that you really struggle on. Then the explanation of presentation of items in the financial statements, explanation of presentation in the financial statement at times you really struggle on. IAS 12, that is income taxes. IFRS 12, that is share-based payment. Sorry, IFRS 2, that is share-based payment, and IFRS 16, that is leases. These are like the primary areas wherein examiner as such he feels that students are at times lacking on and they are not performing up to the mark. Important is that we should be able to understand that, we should be able to capture it in the best way possible, and that is gonna be it. These are the areas, my friend. I would say in case you are not sure of any of these areas, revise it once more. You have my sessions available for you. You have all the detailed syllabus area sessions and of course video question marathon in the revision boot camp that is available for you, wherein the questions have also been practiced. Revise it once more. These areas were problems for somebody else, should not be the problems for us. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Now some of the recommendation that I have, because I cannot end this presentation without really talking on the recommendation that I have from the standpoint of telling you as to what you can do different and what you can do more. I really want to highlight few things. Number one, time management is the key over here. The moment you will start off your exam, you should have an eye on your watch in terms of how much time you need to spend on. 1.8 minutes per mark is something that you should be spending on, and that is something you should not be forgetting. Manage it from the start so that you're not loving one question too much and hating other one. That is not going to be the case. Love all of the 4 questions in an equal way, and I'm sure you would certainly get a very different mark in the exam. All right, practice the application of the theory, how some issues are to be accounted for in terms of what the IFRS really says, where they are to be reported in terms of what the reporting would be, and how the information should be disclosed in terms of how the presentation would be. Effectively, if you'll understand IFRS in terms of what the IFRS really says, how the computation has to happen, how the presentation needs to be disclosed, sky is the limit. Please ensure that you're understanding the IFRS from all of these 3 lenses, and if you would understand that, if you would know that, and you would apply the same principle in the exam, in the question, I'm sure you would get the rightful answer there. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Preparation of the relevant extract from the financial statement. Many of the times, he would not give you full financial statement. He would give you only extract of the financial statement, or he would want you to prepare the extract of the financial statement. If that is the case, you should be understanding that he's not giving you the full-fledged things. He's only giving you the portion of it, and that is what you really need to prepare. Preparing the whole thing would not help. would not give you extra marks. In fact, you would not get good marks if you're giving the whole thing when he's only asking the extract of it. Give the extract of it, mention it like that, and move on. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Relevant explanation is vital. Please ensure whenever he says discuss, comment, compliment, suggest, conclude, and so on and so forth, whatsoever he's saying, please do that. Understand the exact requirement of the question, and I keep saying that like a broken record. Please understand that and answer it there and then. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Be more strategic. Now, this is a very generic term, but all I can tell you is that these professional exams like ACCA Dip IFRS exam really want you to wear a hat of a reporting head. Wear a hat of a strategic individual in a firm who should be knowing as to what is happening in his company, what is happening in the industry, how one should be really complementing each other, how one should be commenting on the issues, and so on and so forth. So you should be really ready to wear the hat of a strategic individual of an organization, strategic leader of an organization, and comment, compliment, suggest, conclude, recommend accordingly. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Refer, of course, you have to, it is more for, for us. You should definitely be looking at various Dip IFR resources. ACCA really says us that we should be referring you to various resources that are available on the ACCA website. We have really concluded a lot of them in our sessions in terms of what you really get as a study material, what you really get as a study material for revision boot camp. There is a lot of stuff that has been taken from the ACCA website, but in order to be really equipped in terms of the changes that are really coming up, you should certainly have an eye in terms of what is really coming on the website. For the FinTrammers, you don't have to be worried about it, because anything and everything that is relevant for you has been included onto your content that has been provided to you. But the folks who are not studying with the FinTram, you should certainly be referring to ACCA website as much as possible. All right, then you have the mock exams. We always say this, that you should always give as many mock exam as possible in order to really be best prepared for it. I would again say that give mock exam in order to understand where you lack and what can you really do different. The more you would do that, the best prepared you are. And last but not the least is see the past exam questions. Now to the FinTrammers, rest assured on this, we have covered a lot in our revision boot camp in terms of where we have solved past exam questions together, and have given you various tips and tricks in terms of how one should be solving that. People who are not studying for the with the FinTram right now, you really have to practice few past exam questions in terms of for you to be really prepared for it. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Alrighty. Now this really finishes up what I really wanted to give you, my last 2 cents kind of a thing for your exam, and this is something I really want to talk on. I do have few more slides, but I just want to spend some time in terms of taking the Q&A, any kind of questions that you may have, which I can help you out in the very last minute, and I'm sure we are good to go on from there. I've also given my my personal email ID over here, and of course my WhatsApp details in case somebody wants to reach out to us and ask anything in relation to the Dip IFR. We'll be more than happy to take it on. Any questions, my friend, anyone may have, I'll be happy to pick it up and of course answer it there. All right, Abdul Rahman Muhammad says important chapters for F1 exam of ACCA. Abdul, this is not an F1 exam session, my friend, and I won't be able to tell you which is important and what is not. In fact, that's not the strategy that FinTram really follows in terms of really, cherry picking the topics. We don't do that. We believe in completing the whole syllabus area and of course giving you I would say a hell lot of questions to really practice over there. We do not believe in cherry picking the topic. So, and of course, this is not the F1 session over here, so I won't be able to comment on the financial accounting right now. I can talk on Dip IFR, and from the Dip IFR standpoint, I would say I've already given you which areas are being tested. In the sessions also, we have discussed that which areas are frequently tested in the exam. We have highlighted that. Just go through that, and I'm sure you would get the answer for it. Oh, Rohan says, sir, can I skip the consolidated balance sheet? Do you want to skip 25 marks in the exam, Rohan? Do you want to give away with 25 marks in the exam? If yes, you can certainly skip. If no, answer is no, my friend. You cannot skip the consolidation question. You would either get the consolidated financial position, you would either get the consolidated P&L, or you may get the consolidated statement of changes in equity. One thing would surely be there in the exam. Please, and for God's sake, do not miss anything in relation to consolidation. It is always there in the exam. I'll repeat, it is always there in the exam. Not to be missed. Is that clear, Rohan? Rohan says no, sir. No, sir means what? Isn't that clear, Rohan? Any other questions, guys? Anyone may have? Yes, Rohan, you should certainly try and catch up on consolidation. If you have taken the FinTram session, you can certainly revise the sessions that are there on the consolidation. There are, I think, 2 or 3 sessions that specifically talks on consolidation. Revise that have practice questions also. Practice that, and towards the end, practice the revision boot camp. We have really practiced a lot on the consolidation, giving you all the tips and tricks. Please revise that at least 2 times before you sit for exam. Come on, guys, anyone have anything? I'm happy to chat on, happy to answer. In case anybody has any concern, any questions anyone may have, happy to really answer that. Mark says, what are the benefits of getting Dip IFR? I don't know if this would be the right forum or the right time to really talk on that. I would only say that Dip IFR course is helping students around the world, around the globe, getting outstanding jobs in the reporting framework or the reporting domains of various MNCs. And if your goal is also that, Mark, then you should certainly think about having the Diploma IFRS with you. IFRS is gonna be the future of accounting in terms of how the world is changing, and of course how the international financial reporting standards are being implemented, and that's what you should be really aspiring for. Anybody else, guys? Any other question anyone may have? Alrighty. Moving on, I do have few slides in terms of telling you as to what the FinTram really offers from the ACCA Dip IFR course standpoint. To all the new students who are seeing us for the first time, this is something that you should be knowing. FinTram really offers you a set of I would say deliverables on the ACCA Dip IFR standpoint. We of course provides you with the ACCA Dip IFR registration with ACCA. We do provide that, and of course in addition to that you also get the fully interactive video sessions, wherein you get to see what the IFRS really says. You get to understand what the questions on those IFRSs can be, and of course how you should be handling that in the best way possible. We would also talk on various current issues, latest updates that really comes onto the ACCA website. We try to include that into our curriculum so that you don't have to go from here and there. You have a one-stop shop. That is the study material that is being provided by FinTram. Alright, then there are various webinars like this, and of course Q&A sessions like this, wherein you come live with me and of course have a chat on that. We have a real-time connect with the faculty. You would have my email ID and of course my WhatsApp number. You would also have the revision boot camp available with you, wherein you have to you have the concept questions, the comprehensive question and past examination question being solved by me, giving you all the relevant tricks to answer that in the exam. And towards the end, you would certainly do the past exam question, that is past or revision boot camp. And mock exam, we always recommend. If you really want to give mock exam with us, we're more than happy to support you on that. Now this is what we have as the Dip IFR product that we have. You can certainly go for the full course of the ACCA Dip IFR exam, and of course along with that the revision boot camp comes your way. That is free of cost coming your way along with the full course, giving you I would say the variety of questions in terms of how one should be thinking out from the examination standpoint. These will give you the flavor of how the exams really comes your way, and that would certainly prepare you, I would say, in a best way possible to really handle that when you would hit your exam. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Now many of the questions, many of the times students really ask us in terms of how can they really reach on to us in terms of getting all these courses or details in relation to that. This is the number that is there from the standpoint of reaching on to us. You can certainly reach out to Fintram, and number and email, and of course the website details are being given over here. You can also reach out to me, and of course my details and my WhatsApp number is also being given over here. I've already given that in advance in the other slides also. It is over here for you to note, and of course you can reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to answer your queries. Now that is what I wanted to really cover in this session, my friend. That was what my agenda was, in terms of giving you some insights in terms of how you can and you may feel different in the exam when you would have these areas at the back of your mind. I'm sure you would certainly be ready to handle that or handle the exam in a very different way, and that is the reason we really wanted to give you a recap as to what the objective of this exam is, what all areas students really do well, what all areas students really struggle on, and if you are the one who is struggling on in any particular area, revise that, have a recap of that. You still have a couple of days, do that and be best prepared for it. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Now that is what I wanted to cover, my friend. I'm sure if you would have gone through the areas and of course the content of it, you can assess yourself in terms of where you are, and if there is a revision need that is required, just go ahead and do that. You have the session, you have the revision boot camp, revise it as much as possible, and I'm sure you will be able to cover the gap in no time. If you still need any support, still have any query, you can reach out to us, you can WhatsApp me. We'll be more than happy to answer it and kill it there and then. If you like this video and of course want your friends and relatives to also get benefit from it, forward this to your friend, share it with your friends, and of course ask them also, and for you too, to subscribe to our channel Fintram Global for keep getting all of these relevant videos your way. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Alrighty. Now that's what I wanted to cover, my friend. I really want to wish you all the best for your upcoming exam. I'm sure you would certainly come up with the rocking colors. Just go ahead with the level of confidence that you have. Do not get bogged down. If you see any question very difficult over there, apply your common sense. Just hang on over there for those 3 or 15 minutes, and sky is the limit. That is what I wanted to cover, my friend. I'll see you again in the next one. Till then, signing off.